new commissioner of the CFL, Stewart Johnston, is joining us. Thank you so much for making time. I bet you today, I don't even know how many interviews you did. You're up bright and early. You had the big one in Toronto. So I'm being honest when I say appreciate you making some time here, because this is probably, you're like, okay, what time does the game start? I want to get home.
Well, thank you. No, it is my pleasure. My pleasure to join you. It's been a day of firsts for me and a day of learning. And what I've learned so far in the last 2 minutes is that Sharky just goes for 2-0 teams. Like that's all he wants. That's what I've just learned.
You got zinged by the commissioner.
Commish, you go back and listen to last week's show. I'm in the same spot as I was last week.
Bandwagon jumper.
No.
Yeah. No. I'm going to ask some questions here. Hopefully you haven't been asked today, because I know there's probably been a lot. But this process, and I heard the interview and I heard the presser this morning, it doesn't start that long ago. Like, this whole thing kind of starts last year in Vancouver?
In terms of the process to pick a new commissioner?
Yeah.
I guess it started informally back in Vancouver. A couple of just quiet chats. I know so many people involved with the league. And frankly, I had actually just taken on in June a large new portfolio at my old job. And I was so swamped with that and focused on that I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about it. Sort of resurfaced again in late Jan, Feb. I was able to take a breather, actually think about it, and realize, wow, this is something I really want to do.
Absolutely. What beneficial things you're bringing from Bell to this position?
Well, I think I've got a long history of being involved with media rights deals. So that's probably the most obvious one. For the last 8 years, I've been a revenue person as well. I've been in charge of the entire advertising portfolio across all Bell Media platforms. I've also driven the distribution revenue team, which is selling our content through cable companies, through direct-to-consumer, OT, over-the-top platforms, deal with Amazon, that sort of thing. Yeah. So from a revenue perspective, I have a lot of background, a lot of skill, a lot of connections and networks. And then overall, all of us live in worlds of challenge, headwinds, and disruption. And I've dealt with an awful lot of it for the last 28 years. And we've managed through it all right. I think I've got kind of the demeanor to handle that. And so as we head into a very optimistic, confident journey, I also know there will be challenges, and I feel confident I can handle those as well.
Commissioner, I want to point out a couple things. First off, Barney was going to do the job if you didn't take it, so you've kind of upset him a little bit that you've taken a
half-assed.
Yeah, half-assed. Yeah. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Nowhere near any media background that would have helped. Anyway, I think one of the things that people have watched over the last millennium in some respects is the expansion of a 10th team in Canada. Now, that's kind of lower on your priority list. Can you talk about that a little bit, that why it's lower? And two, is it because we've been chasing a black hole in the Maritimes?
Well, I don't know enough to know whether we've been chasing a black hole. I've seen a lot of interest, and we certainly Touchdown Atlantic has been very successful. So I think there has been momentum there. I don't know enough direct information about it. The reason I've put it lower on my priority list is not because of any motivation towards a 10th team. I would love a 10th team in our league. I'd love an 11th and 12th as well. Nice. But a 10th team would be outstanding. I used to be the lead scheduling person at TSN in a previous iteration of my role there. And scheduling 9 teams from a broadcast standpoint is extremely challenging, and doing it now from the CFL side also very challenging. Just from a scheduling perspective would be great, but just another market in Canada would be just, I think, outstanding to bring this country further together and expose even more Canadians to this incredible game that we have.
Okay, so I'm gonna take off on that, and again, I know there's other priorities and other things you're better at, so I apologize for dragging you down this spot. But if you were to pick, outside of the Maritimes, if you were to pick somewhere that you would focus on for that, what would you look at for an expansion team?
Well, I'm absolutely not going to answer that question. What I will say is this: when I said that my priorities, looking for that 10th expansion team is not at the top of my priority list, is because as a leader of an organization, one of the biggest jobs you have is determine the allocation of capital. And that's human capital, it's financial capital. Where are we going to put limited resources? And where I want to put them is where in areas that I think we can control. I think we can control building the entertainment base of our product. I think we can control innovation as it relates to data tracking, data enhancement, and health and safety and player safety. I think we can control how we involve our teams and our players and our staff in communities, and really take advantage of being the biggest major pro sports league in the country with only Canadian teams, as we see a sense of patriotism washing over the country. Those are areas we can control. Dealing with partners, dealing with advertisers, we can control. Now, I dodged your question, but if somebody came and presented a really strong ownership proposal from anywhere in Canada, and they had the bona fides behind it, I'm listening. So don't think that because it's not top priority list, I am listening.
That's what I was saying. Quebec City gives them the call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, the instant rivalry. That's where I think the best spot is right there. How challenging is it going to be? And you said, coming from Bell, and I'm sure there's a lot of different avenues that you have to deal with, but now you got to navigate the waters with basically 9 owners or directors. That's a big challenge, right?
Of course, multiple stakeholders is a challenge. You have to make sure you can figure out a way to find a path to drive your vision, achieve consensus and support. My background does come with a lot of stakeholder relationship development, and so I feel confident that that is an area that I bring a lot of experience to the job. But this, I've reported to boards, I've been on boards, I've chaired a number of boards. Never a board with 9 vicious competitors as the board members. So that is going to be a new thing I'm going to have to learn to navigate. But I'll tell you this: when I was going through the process, and I met with all of them in one room, and certainly they wanted to know a lot more about me. But I also did want to know more about them. And it was about whether our visions for the future of the league would align. And if they didn't align, then really I was prepared to say then, I wish you all the best with all sincerity. But they did. And I heard from in that room a lot of support for the things I was talking about. So I feel very good that we're off on the best foot possible.
This is a 2-part. And I've been able to coach my kids now in the Regina Flag Football League for 8 years. 2 kids. It is the largest flag football league in North America per capita, hands down. I think it was about 5, maybe 7 years ago, the CFL backed away from the Fall League. And the CFL had that brand, those teams on all these kids. And we went back to NFL now in the fall, which never made any sense to me. Now, you talk about growing this league. Obviously, it's the youth and the kids and whatnot. So that's first part. How important is that for you? The second part is, how do we get the new Canadians buying into this game?
Well, I think I want to actually hear more about your experience with flag, because when you're participating, your kids are participating in a league at that level. I actually want to off air. I'm going to talk to you more about that because I'd
Western
love to hear
Pizza.
it.
Western Pizza on me.
Western Pizza. I will be there. I'm coming out for the home opener. Let's connect. Now, I would say, as I think about the aging fan base of the CFL, which is an issue. My experience with flag in it directly is my 14-year-old daughter joined her flag football team this past fall, and she plays an awful lot of sport. And I've never seen her, and she loves sport, but I've never seen her come back from any sporting event or activity with bigger smile than when she came back from flag football. And that is, so the long-term strategy has to be the development of flag to a large degree, and think about the Olympics coming in 28. as well as all amateur football, men, women, boys, girls, and then from a new Canadian standpoint, I'm gonna say the same theories apply.
Yep.
I think if new Canadians get a football in their hand and a coach who can just give them the basics, they will fall in love like we've all fallen in love.
Yep. I've coached those kids, and that's all. And they should have a Rider jersey, Hamilton jersey, whatever it is for that league, not a Tennessee Titans, right? Like, so we're on the same page.
Well, I'll say this. I absolutely agree. I would love them to be wearing one of our 9 teams, as they get out on the field. However, that would be my second priority. The first priority is them being on the field playing football. And I think no matter what jersey they might be wearing out there, they're falling in love with the game. And that can only be helpful to the Canadian Football League from an attendance, from a pipeline of talent, and just a fan base.
How important is gambling to this league?
Yeah.
And then the last few years, hey, trust me, I know. But what's your stance on that? And coming from TSN, you guys done a great job there, embracing it, just like a lot of the leagues, right? Where's your stance on that, Commissioner?
Well, I think sports wagering, the regulation of sports wagering, I think, is hugely beneficial on a number of levels. What we're doing, what regulation does is shine a light on things that have been going on in the dark, and with that, you now have approved operators with the most sophisticated technology to determine, is there fraud? Is there a problem? Is there a player betting on their own game? And this is a way we can keep the integrity of the game, as well as protect the community who hopefully will be wagering responsibly. I think all of that, the regulation piece, I think, is hugely important. And then in terms of does placing a $5 wager on a CFL football game increase engagement and increase your interest in that? Absolutely, it does. I think all the stats prove that out, and that's what we want.
We're short of time, but I'm going to throw one at you here. What do you see as changing in the in-game experience for fans that are already at the game? What are we going to do differently for the fans that are already there besides the football game?
Well, I think that the stadium experience, from tailgating through to in-stadium during game, has shown great improvements in almost every market. What I've committed to do is a 100-day listening tour. I'm going to come around and I'm going to talk to each of the clubs, each of their presidents, each of their stadium folks, the players, the PA coaches, GMs, fans, and I want to understand what is working. One of the questions I want to ask when I'm going to meet with every single member of the CFL staff, and one of the questions I ask is, tell me the 3 things you're most excited about. What are the 3 things you're working on that you think are great? And then after that, tell me 2 things that you think we should be doing better. And the reason I do it in that order is because most people want to go to the second question first. And even though they're doing wonderful things and doing exciting things, just human nature, they tend to go to the second question. Tell me the good things first, then we'll talk about the improvements. And so maybe after I come out of these 100 days, I'll answer that better. But I think every club is focused on that in-stadium and ancillary programming around the game and that experience.
We've got, I think, 2 minutes left here. When was the last time you were at a Rider game?
I think, mostly it's been involved with Grey Cups. I'm going to get it. I hope I don't get too emotional. I was just thinking about Darren Titishin, who was such a larger-than-life individual for many Canadians, but all of us who got to work with him and talk to him, whether it's every day or every once in a while. We have such a large place in our hearts for Dutchie, and one of the things we talked an awful lot about was his love of his riders, and so when I think about the riders, there's so many great players and great moments and big wins and heartbreaking losses, but Darren Titishin is is probably the first person I think of with the Riders.
Yeah, no, for sure. I used to send tapes to Dutchie, and he used to watch them and critique me. What a great human, right? Porcupine Plains, shout out. Okay, you call yourself a sports junkie. I read that. Who are you cheering for here in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Oof! Wow, that is a tough question, but I will give you that. I'm trying to think. As a commissioner of the CFL, am I allowed to talk about who my favorite hockey teams are? I don't know if they coached me on that one. I'll just say, unlike your co-host who goes for the 2-0 teams, I'm going to cheer for an 0-2 team against
Ottawa.
your Leafs. I grew up in Ottawa.
There you go.
That's fair. We'll take that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Commish, thank you so much for making time. I love the 100-day tour and, going to listen and just soaking it all in. And anytime you want to talk about flag football, I will get Mike Thomas, all the gentlemen and ladies that run the league here, and I'm sure they'd love to sit down with you. And we can give you some visuals of just amazing what they do here in Regina.
Amazing. I would look forward to that.
Right on. Okay. Well, you have...
Look forward to meeting you on the tour.
Yeah. Right. Let's go. Go Sens. Go Sens. Get back in this. Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you very much.
Too.